We are back with one of my famous in-depth, very detailed scouting reports. Basically, I reach out to people on Twitter and say, give us a shout out to talk about this player. And joining us, we have Simon, who I think we're going to probably hear from in the season as well, because he does the Same Old City podcast. I've got that one right?
Yep, that's right. So, we're a York City podcast. Started last season. Yeah. And, excited to come up against Sutton this coming season.
Absolutely, that will be good. So we're going to have a quick chat about Mr. Davies, who we just signed. And I know he was with you, then he went out on loan, but he was mostly with you last season. So we'll talk to him, and I just want to hear your thoughts as a York fan. Can you tell us a little bit about the playing style and what kind of impact he had at your club? I'm guessing not great because he went out on loan for the second part or last part of the season, but what's the kind of playing style that we're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how in-depth this one's going to be because he was only really with us sort of half a season. He arrived kind of, I think it was about October, November last season. And because he'd been knocking in the goals at Leiston, who were a few leagues below, and then he'd gone to Braintree and started quite well there. So we brought him in. And Neil Ardley was our manager at the time, so I think he'd been tracking him. And he started really well, scored on his debut, I think, or at least his full debut. And he looked decent. We had quite high hopes for him for the first couple of months, but the club generally wasn't in a great situation. We were playing a very defensive style, so he kind of got dragged down and all that, really. And we ended up sacking Neil Ardley, bringing a new manager in, Adam Hinshelwood, who had sort of new ideas. He did play Will Davies' first few games of his tenure as well, but he seemed to decide that he wasn't suited to his style. And so he ended up going out again to Bromley on loan. So kind of 3 clubs in one season. And then, that was the last we heard of him, really. But in terms of playing style, he's I think when we signed him, we mentioned that it was his kind of physical attributes were a big part of why he was being brought in, which I think means he runs around quite a lot. He's, he likes to kind of chase lost causes, get involved with defenders. Right. He's that kind of tenacious player, I think. Quite strong, but not exactly a target man. He's kind of a bit of an all-rounder, really. He has a good scoring record at his previous clubs, and he scored a few for us early on, but didn't really keep that going. So I think he only ended up with sort of 4 or 5 goals over the course of the season. So in terms of what kind of striker he is, probably a bit of an all-rounder, but maybe expect someone who's going to have a good work rate rather than someone who's going to be knocking 25 goals in.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that'd be my kind of business.
And from the bit you saw of him, is it someone that we can just chuck straight in, or do we have to have a little bit of patience to kind of get him up to speed and so on?
Well, I mean, we chucked him straight in, and that seemed to work at first. But I think it will depend really how he's kind of adjusted, because, like I say, he had come up through the leagues quite quickly, and it maybe was a little bit of a quick jump straight to National League level. So it might be that you see him more as an option off the bench, and he is still quite young as well. So might be that he's seen kind of as one for the future. But it's difficult to say because we didn't see that much of him, and he looked pretty good and then tailed off a bit. He could do really well. There's definitely the potential, or he might just kind of fade into obscurity. That both seem equally possible based on his time at York.
It's always a tricky one when a manager who wants you is then changed for players, because suddenly you kind of feel really uneasy, so you never really know. So maybe we'll get that bounce with Morrow.
I think I think he's kind of based down south, and all his other clubs have been down south as well. So that might have been a factor in why he didn't necessarily settle at York.
And Morrison's obviously a striker as well, so he may well get something out of him. But from what you've seen, obviously all of our clubs, all the clubs at our level, it's not just about what happens on the pitch. Did he come across as a person? Was there much interaction with the fans, especially the younger fans? What kind of person have we signed, to your knowledge?
He seemed sort of in his interviews when he joined the club, he seemed quite driven to make it as a pro because, club mentioned that there'd been other sides tracking him as well, and he'd been offered more money elsewhere, but he really wanted to go somewhere that, he'd have the belief and would get first team football. So he seems to have a good positive attitude, certainly good fitness levels, that kind of thing. And yeah, I can remember him kind of trying to G up the crowd a few times, but because last season wasn't that successful for us generally, we really stayed up by the skin of our teeth. There wasn't that much chance, and because particularly under Neil Ardley, there was a lot of grinding out 1-0s or 1-0s and things. It wasn't free-flowing football that was getting the fans off their seats. So, yeah, I think he seemed to have a good attitude. Obviously, we don't know exactly why he ended up leaving. It's slightly up because we paid money for him.
Right.
And yeah, there had been other teams interested, but then we ended up just cancelling his contract at the end of the season. So I don't know whether that was a falling out thing or that was the easiest way for him to move on or what. But it seems odd that we signed him, but we couldn't, for whatever reason, manage to sell him for a fee. But yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Simon. Good luck for obviously most of the season, not all of the season. And hopefully we'll see you again. So thank you very much, and I'll let you get back to your evening. Thank you.
No, it's been a pleasure. Yeah, and good luck to you as well. But obviously, other than the 2 times we play, yeah.